demonstrated her versatile expertise in various industries. Her passion for empowering women and advocating for children's education and family welfare has led her to establish the platform Yahim, the mother. Furthermore, Yomi is an avid writer. Oh, that's amazing. I'm a writer as well. We should definitely connect. And the founder of her own lifestyle brand, WilCox. Welcome, Yomi Wilcox.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Auntie. I am really honored to be here. Thank you so much. And Ibiyemi, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I'm not sure who you were talking about, but I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, we've been invited here to discuss disruption. And it was really interesting that I was invited in a moment of disruption. So it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and my son was banging on my door. Eventually, he found his way into the room and said, "You need to get ready to go for the marathon." I kissed him and wished him good luck, and turned to his father in bed and said, "Go for the gold." An hour later, his father taps me on the shoulder and says, "They're waiting for me." I had no plans of watching anybody run who had not committed a crime at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Somehow, all the men in my house managed to drag me out, sans makeup, in a boo boo to a sports event. I get to the sports event and realize my children aren't the only children who are running at this event. All my children are running at this event. I don't have just my biological children, but also children from the school. And there I am looking like a panda in a boo boo at a sports event. I'm trying to keep face, cheer the children on, and Auntie Lamide walks past and says, "Oh, hi, I've been meaning to speak to you." And I'm thinking to myself, "Auntie, I look like I'm going through things right now. What could it be?" And she says, "Oh, we're doing an event, and it's for ladies who are looking to get married, and the theme is disruption. You can talk about anything, but the theme is disruption." And I thought to myself, has she read my blog? Because the catchphrase is "marriage is a scam." How on earth did Auntie decide I was qualified to talk to women about preparation for marriage? But here we are. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Auntie, and thank you everyone who has tuned in. So I'll jump straight into it, and I'll start with the pandemic. So I think we can all agree that the pandemic was a disruptor and a major disruption to our lives. I remember being locked up. I remember being locked in. I remember there was an episode with onions. I remember there was an episode with inhalations and ivermectin, all those wonderful things. But one of the things that the pandemic did was it forced us to innovate, and it forced us to reevaluate our priorities, our goals, our values, and it it allowed us to find new ways in which to connect. And so one of the things that I did for the first time ever during the pandemic was attend a Zoom party. Now, of course, as is custom, if I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not going to be on time. Now, this wasn't even intentional. Um, it was about midnight, and then I remembered yesterday was my friend's birthday. I look at my phone, and oh wait, she actually set a Zoom link. So I log into the Zoom, and you have a conversation that's taking place with about 6 or 7 single women, and they're talking about why they're so happy that they're not married, because they look at their moms on Sundays after church, their dads sit and watch television, and their moms are in the kitchen making breakfast, or they've got to do laundry. And, they were very adamant that these sacrifices and these challenges, pains that you face in marriage was not for them. And I thought that was hilarious. So my friend called me the following day and she said, Yomi, you weren't really active in the conversation. And I said, no, because I think if I told them what it was really about, they definitely wouldn't get married. I said to her that, if you talk to a lady who's been married for a while, you'll find out that if her major problem is who's going to do the laundry or who's going to wash the dishes, she will give a testimony in church. In life, we are told to plan, to prepare. And one thing I will say about the ladies from the Zoom meeting that I did take away was the urgency and the desire not to lose themselves. Based on what they thought marriage was, they believed they would lose their essence or who they were. And to be very honest, it happens. Even when you aren't married and you just go through life, it could be your dream career, and then you get in and discover that your boss is Pharaoh. And you still have to survive. And so, it's really important. Like I said with Yemi, thank you so much for my profile. But, when my husband and I read it yesterday, we had a good laugh. Because all of those things are not me. And the reason Yahya talks about the leader, the lover, and the mother is because those are elements, those are dimensions of who we are as women. But the essence of who we are is the girl. And the girl is who is there when everything else is stripped away. The girl is who is there at the very beginning. That's who I am. I'm the girl. And it's important that when you know who you are able to then define your purpose. Now, Yomi the girl is a lover of love. If there's one thing, if there's one thing I love, it's love. And I have found that in everything that I've done, in consulting, in motherhood, in marriage, in running a primary school, in running a women's empowerment platform that was completely accidental, and a manifestation of disruption, I get to love. And my love comes in the form of encouragement. So in every sphere, the thing that I do that is consistent is I encourage. And I've learned that if you understand your purpose, then your placement doesn't matter. It's your mission doesn't change. Who you are doesn't change. It's just how do you achieve what you have set out to based on where you are. And it's really interesting because in life we grow up. So as children we go to school and we understand that we have to pass exams, and you then get promoted, and then you go from primary school to secondary school, and then you go from secondary school to university. And the plan is after university you get a job. After you get a job, you're supposed to meet this amazing man with incredible shoulders who can lift you regardless of your weight. He has to be able to lift you. Let's just take a moment. But the thing that we're not always prepared for are the disruptions. Now, you've had this plan, you follow the plan all the way through, and then you graduate from university and can't find a job for 3 years. That's a disruption. You know, you think that this is your dream career, and you get into this job, and you're in a depression because you've lost yourself. Or in my case, you marry this amazing man, and then you're told that if you ever have children, it will be together. Those are disruptions. Now, when we think of disruptions, we think they're negative, they're really bad. It's the enemy. I think sometimes we don't realize that the biggest disruptor of all is actually God. And in Proverbs, in Proverbs 19:21, it says you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. Now that's the New Living Translation version, and I'll give you a hint. It's in the but. The but is where you know that you can make plans, but disruptions are coming. And those disruptions will shift you. Those disruptions will cause you to rethink, to reevaluate, to reprioritize, to re-strategize. Those disruptions, if we're not careful, can become a destination. But it's not supposed to be a destination. It's supposed to be a moment that defines or a season that leads into. We're not supposed to stop in our disruption. So I'm going to tell you about a disruption that occurred in my life. And like I said, I married this amazing man who I saw so much potential in. And for a while, I thought to myself, Yomi, if you have a daughter, tell her not to marry potential. Tell her to marry manifestation. Because I saw someone who had so much potential for significance and for greatness in so many spheres, but was focused on a limitation. And I tried to encourage, I tried to strategize, I tried to bully, I tried to fight, and then I did the thing you're never supposed to do. I resigned myself to this place. And I decided we're going to make the very best of where we are. And so when disruption came in his life, and suddenly every form of stability and structure that he had made himself comfortable in was shaking and crumbling before our eyes, he was being forced to move into entrepreneurship. And having been with him for 13 years, when we met, I thought entrepreneurship was where he was supposed to be. But after he had resisted me for 13 years, I knew entrepreneurship was not where we needed to be. And I said to him, we can't do this. We have to plan. We have to save for at least a year. And then his dad had a heart attack. And for 2 days, he was in a coma. And suddenly, everything's changed. And whether I like it or not, he's going to be an entrepreneur because he has to take on a family business. And we were not prepared. And I can say with my whole heart, it wasn't just disruptive, it was disastrous. Every possible thing that could go wrong went wrong. And the thing that I took out of this experience was that everything went wrong and I was devastated, but my husband didn't quit and he didn't resign. He did this thing that they do in netball. It's called pivot. Now, unlike basketball, when you catch a ball in the game, you can move by bouncing the ball around. In netball, which I believe is a superior game, when you catch the ball, you can't move. So you have to pivot. Now, I was studying the strategy of pivoting, and it says that the best way to pivot is to keep the strongest foot on the ground, and the weaker foot is the foot that you move around. So when you pivot, you could have someone who you catch the ball and someone's there blocking you. You use your weaker leg to step back, you can step forward, you can turn around, as long as you don't move the anchor leg. And you still have to pass. That's the purpose. So the disruptor is the person marking you, but your pivot is your realigning with your purpose. It doesn't change, it's just how you're going to do it that you have to realign with. And so what he did was he stepped out of the family business and he started his own. Now, the strong foot was that the core of the business was the same. But the pivot was that he needed, in his case, to come out of the shadow. And once he came out of the shadow, in the space of 2 years, what I had seen, what I had believed in, what I had prayed for, what I had resigned myself to never have, I experienced, I received, I watched him achieve. And, you know, he was the one who reminded me that, Yomi, that was a disruption. And I said, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it. And he said, no, let's talk about it. Let's go through it. Because everything you asked for, you always wanted your upstairs, downstairs house. And by the time everything shook, you got an upstairs, upstairs, downstairs house. See? And that's the reason why I tell you, ladies, he needs to be strong, because sometimes you're tired and someone needs to lift you up those stairs. So I'm just saying, in my upstairs, upstairs. But you see, the thing about it is that although God is the great disruptor, God is also the one who's going to carry you through. And that's the reason why in Isaiah 41:10, he says, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. And so I'm going to try and close because I don't know if I've used up my time, but I haven't. Wow, it's a Christmas miracle. Fantastic. So to explain my point better, although God is a disruptor, God also directs. And that's the reason why in everything we have to seek him. And I think sometimes we don't even understand how dangerous that prayer is when we say God willing, because it also means that if you're praying it and it's not his will, you need to be prepared to pivot. So, like I said, disruptions, let us remember, are not a destination. They are events, they are moments, sometimes they're even seasons, but that's not where we're supposed to stay. So I'm just going to read one passage from Second Corinthians. From Second Corinthians chapter 4, and it says, "We are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are driven to despair. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed." NIV says, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed." If we take anything away from today, it's to remember that disruption is not destruction. It's not an end, it is a moment that we must pass through. So, thank you.
No, please sit down.
I should sit.
No, please sit on. Yeah. Please sit. I need another microphone. You can move on. You can.
Sorry, could you help? Excuse me. Could you help me for just a minute, please? Thank you. Just need to hoist. All right, we made it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Please, another round of applause. I wish I had. So we're going to have to set something up that you come and talk for 2 hours.
Lord have mercy.
Because she told us when she got here that she sent her mom a voice message of 50-something minutes. I didn't even know that was possible.
It was a summary. I was giving her bullet points. I was trying not to be verbose. Yes.
Okay, so I wonder what your verbose would be like. That was amazing. Really, really amazing. You said something and I want you to repeat it, saying that if who's going to do laundry, okay, and who's going to do Sunday lunch or breakfast.
So I said who's doing laundry,
Yeah,
and who's doing lunch, and who's washing the bathroom are minute and unimportant when disruptions come.
Great.
The disruptions will help you see that those things don't mean anything.
Great. Because I find that quite a few people, quite a few unmarried females feel one of the big things is, nobody's going to make me a slave. I am this, I am that, and they feel that is the problem. This submission thing, and they feel like that is the problem. So tell me, what is the reality in marriage? What is reality? Because you said that if you told them what really was, they might never get married. But what is the reality? Some of the reality.
So some of the realities of marriage, and I think that marriage is just like the rest of life. You have plans and you think this is what it's going to be, but that's not usually how it plays out. So even if you have, for example, a business idea and you have this fantastic business and then you have a pandemic, and even though the day before the pandemic it was a fantastic idea, the day after the pandemic you could be wiped out. That's the reality of life. So getting into marriage, you think every day is going to be rosy, and you think that marriage is going to be a continuous date. So when y'all were going out and he used to take you to dinner and you used to go to the movies and he used to send you text messages during the day, and then you get married and he starts paying bills, and suddenly he's a little bit distracted and he may not remember to send you those text messages. And then, When he used to take you out for Sunday lunch every Sunday, you suddenly find yourself conjuring up Sunday lunch, and usually with remnants, because your fridge doesn't quite look as well stocked as your mum's. So those are just some of the realities. I mean, I think also as you go through marriage and you have different seasons, then you have the season with the children. And there's a way, if you had a mom like mine, she definitely is she should go into PR, because she made marriage and motherhood look not just effortless, but aspirational. You know, you looked at her and you were like, oh, if she can do it, I can do it better. And then, oh yes, because you have to aspire. The thing is, they always pray that, oh, we'll be greater than our parents. And I took it to heart. And then I realized, I'm not running anybody's race. Paul said each man should run his own race. Okay, so I'm not in competition with her anymore. Because when you have children, that's when you discover that feeling of struggling to succeed and never feeling like you passed the exam and not being able to overcome it. You know, in life, there was nothing that I couldn't overcome. You know, I'm a very optimistic person. So if you tell me to go down this way and for some reason there's a blockade, Yomi will find a way. She will go round, she will go under, she will climb over. And then I had children and discovered that every time you feel as if, yes, I finally figured it out, something would happen that would let you know you're a novice. You don't even know what you're doing. And then, you know, now with Gen Alphas, because I think that's our children's generation, they've been encouraged to verbalize and communicate. And so you then have people who will, you know, from time to time remind you that you're not spending enough time. I had someone greet me yesterday. I had to go to work and I thought I'd be at work till, I don't know, 12 o'clock, because school's finished. And I didn't get home till 5. And I am physically, emotionally, just in every way exhausted. And then a human being comes to greet me and says, hi, person that I haven't seen all day long. And I just wanted to say, Holy Spirit, hold me. Hold me, don't let me assault him. And so instead I gave him a kiss and said, I'm happy to see you too, son. But yes, that's how you have disruptions that you weren't expecting, but then they become life.
Yeah, and just to encourage you, it's going to be a bit different when they become teenagers, going to be different when they're in their 20s and when they're in their 30s, just to give you something to look forward to.
I'm so excited because Auntie used the word encourage. You know, and in Christianese, encourage means as you go through the flames, just know you will get out. But this too shall pass. Yes.
Fantastic. So you've sort of given us a tip about what happens when you are dating. Can you just turn it off? Thank you. What happened? That alarm is for one of my children. She's home now, but she's abroad. So that alarm is for me to call her every day at this time. So these are some of the ways you cope.
I shall note that
Yes.
for when they travel. Must call regularly.
Or else, you know, like you said, all kinds of things come up and then you find I haven't spoken to her in a week. Okay. No, you've given us a few tips about how dating is different from marriage. So in dating, what is a disruption in terms of how people date now or how people meet people now? Okay? what do you think can be a disruption that I can go through to make me meet people, not necessarily in the way that is typically done now? I hope that makes sense.
That's a really difficult question because talking to friends and siblings who are presently single, I sometimes when I talk about dating, they say to me, it's a jungle out there, okay? It wasn't like this when you were in the market. And from time to time, so I will say to married ladies that one of the things that has helped me try to find myself, because the way life is, you will at some point lose yourself and come back, and it will happen several times. But I try to test market value. So, just if you go out, at least someone's head should turn. I mean, if no one's head turns, then check and make sure you're not wearing a boo-boo, okay? But in terms of dating, I know...
I'm so sorry, I've got to stop you there.
Yes.
Just for 1 second.
Yes.
Because I was in Toronto and a lady was saying, look, there is a problem that she goes out and nobody says, "Sks." That at least in Lagos, somebody will go, "Sks." Okay, just to buttress your point. Go on.
No, I mean, the worst thing you can do to me right now, because sometimes in certain environments, especially when people see you as maybe someone who's an organizer or something, they want to endear themselves to you, so they'll say something like, "Mama." That's the worst thing you can say. You didn't say sister. You didn't even say auntie. You said mama. No, it's wrong. So yes, that's a disruption I'm facing right now. But going back to the question in terms of disruptions and dating, I think that the dating scene and the environment and the culture is a disruption. So the way in which people communicate and we interact, we have somehow created more and more barriers. And if we understand that human nature is us trying to figure out, when he said hi, did he mean hi? Did he say hi like, "Hi, I'd like to get your number"? Or did he say hi like, "Hi, what's up, see you"? Now, I'm already trying to figure out what the hi is. Now put that hi with an exclamation mark in a DM, and you're wondering, what is this person even saying? So those are disruptions. But then in terms of disruptors, you have a lot of apps that are now helping people to reconnect. So in terms of dating apps, even in terms of social platform apps like Instagram and Facebook. And I think that it's important that we use wisdom to use these things that have disconnected us to help us also reconnect. So it's just navigating through it. But that's something I see in terms of dating and disruptions right now.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So I like that you're differentiating between disruption and disruptors. Okay? So how do I know that this is the person?
Flesh and blood has not revealed it. I think so. So I will say that I don't think there is a person. I think that the person you're with is the person you chose. Now, if you ask me how you chose that person, I can say to you that it has to do with, first of all, your interactions with that person. How does that person make you feel? What does that person bring out of you? I watched a podcast once, and a lady said there's a difference between being high value and being valued. And she said a man can spend his money on you, but when a busy man gives you his time and his attention, pay attention to him. And so, in terms of choosing, I would say, who do you become when you're with that person? And it's good to experience different areas and different seasons with the person, because then you have a better understanding of who the person is. But relationships, and I would say love, is a choice. So it's not really, there isn't a one that the universe has created. And, I used to think that I was going to meet the one, and he was going to be my mom's friend's neighbor's nephew who was going to London, and my mom happened to send him to drop something at our doorstep, and his name was going to be Shaney Adams. And I would open the front door and I would see Shaney Adams. And as he gives me this thing from my mom, he'll say, "Oh, do you want to go to Starbucks?" But the thing is, so my angel, who definitely heard me recount that story, I feel was a bit tipsy, because the only thing that he got from that story was an English last name. But I didn't even want an English name. I just needed a name that started with A. And I ended up with WILCOX in Narnia, at the end of the alphabet somewhere. So yes.
Okay, so just to end, tell us, how did you meet your husband? Oh, okay, sorry. No, before we end our own, and then please, if you have questions, and I don't know if somebody is on Zoom who can also capture the Zoom questions as well. Right. Okay, so before I ask, just tell us, how did you meet your husband?
So I had been living in England, and I felt it was really important to move back to Nigeria to perform my civic duty and sacrifice a year of my life to my nation. It was an aspiration I had always had. And so I came back to Nigeria with, gusto. And, the day of camp, when you go in to sign up, I was there dressed and ready. And my mom saw me and said, "Absolutely not. First of all, they're not going to look for the bright yellow girl with the big bum bum. Go and put on a boo-boo." So she goes into her wardrobe and gives me her rattiest, tattiest boo-boo. Then I come out and she's like, no, this is not working for me. Put on a scarf. So I put a scarf on so that I look like an abandoned housewife with 5 children for a civil servant who's run off with his colleague. And that's how my mom sent me to camp. And so, of course, got there day one, I don't know, number 200. I was there at 6 a.m. So I wonder what time number 1 got there. And signed up and got in, done everything. And then like a week later, you have to go back and sign some more things. So I put my uniform back on, the scarf and the boo-boo. And it's now the end of the day, and I'm with a bank. So you've got banks that have tents. So I'm sitting under the tent, and I'm trying to schmooze them so I can ride in their car out of camp, because what we're not doing is sleeping there. And so as I'm sitting there with them, I see a friend of mine. Now, this friend of mine is definitely one of the big girls of Lagos. And she was with her crew, the big boys and girls of Lagos, that signed up a week after everyone else. So their numbers start from 2,800. And so as they approach, I see this Adonis. Now, so something that I should say is that moving back to Lagos, having lived in Atlanta, which is the land of, girl, you said it when you said trenches. So Atlanta is definitely the land of beautiful men. I don't know, it's in the water. They are beautiful. And, you know, moving to Nigeria, I had resigned myself to the fact that I would have to settle for personality. You know, Nigerian men are known for being charismatic. They're not necessarily known for the aesthetic. So when I see my friend approaching, all I saw was this man's face. So I confess I was very shallow. And I saw his smile. And I was like, I want to give you my number. So what did I do? He came into the tent. I said hi to my friends. And then I kind of like badgered him and, you know, had him. I basically got him to open an account. Now, in all of this, I must say that my mom was incredibly successful in the disguise because he did not even ask my name. Talk less, ask my number. So fast forward a week later, I need to go to camp and I don't have a ride to go to camp. We're getting our posting letters, so I don't have to be in disguise anymore. I can look like myself, something similar to this. And so I called my friend and I said to her, could you help me? I need someone to give me a lift to camp. And she goes, oh, I'll send my friend. He lives close to you, so I'll send him by. And so she sends him. I have no idea who she sent. And as I come down from my mom's staircase, these cascading staircases, something like a moment out of Beauty and the Beast. You know, I come down looking like myself in my mermaid denim skirt. And I saw him and I was like, hi. And I'm not moved by this guy who hasn't asked for my number. But suddenly he's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, so yeah, I'm supposed to be picking you up. And I'm just like, okay. And we get into his car and he says to me, look, I think we should start all over again. My name is Inte. And the rest is history.
As they say, fantastic, fantastic, great, amazing story. But what I loved and I picked out of there is that you were not fazed the fact that he didn't ask your number on day one. Because again, you find people can be a bit sensitive and they're like, oh, he didn't ask my number, he's not interested, I'm not even going to bother with him. Right?
No, you step up to the challenge.
You step up
the thing is, he didn't see me. He
As
saw
you.
a disguise. He needed to see who I was, so he would know that he needed to give himself a chance. That's what he needed to do.
Fantastic, fantastic. Ibiemi, you say you have a question. Yes. And any other questions, please? If there's any other question, please write it out and let me have it, or you can come and say it yourself. Do you want to speak? Yeah.
First of all, you're an amazing storyteller. Like, I was hooked
Thank
the
you.
entire time listening to your story. And then obviously when you were talking about disruption and what happened with you and your husband and, you know, transitioning, and I felt like you were describing my life this year. I quit my job. I've moved back for a bit, temporarily. And I'm in that space of, this is not where I thought 31 would be, like, at all. And obviously you have hindsight in that you've moved into the next season. So my question is, in that, like, in between when it's like incredibly uncomfortable, how do you continue to, I don't know, is it hope, I guess, that like things are going to look best on the other side when you're in the middle of the disruption and you don't know left from right?
that's a really great question. I think as you were speaking, what came to me was bloom where you're planted. And, you know, we don't always like where we are, but you don't want to lose who you are. And you sometimes have to be more intentional than other times in terms of making sure you don't lose yourself. So it's not where you are, and you also have to understand that you have moments, you have events, you have seasons, and some are longer than others. But if you are not happy where you are, then you cannot resign yourself to where you are. So till the season passes or till the moment ends, you need to encourage yourself to bloom. Don't allow yourself to shrivel. Don't allow yourself to dry up. Whatever that little thing is that gives you hope, that helps you get up, that allows you to, let's just try it, it's another day. Make sure you hold on to that thing, whatever it is. You talked about writing. Write about this season. Write about it knowing that the story has to end in the positive. So whatever you're passing through, you're writing towards a happy ending. So
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, I went to visit Ibiemi, who lives in Toronto, and, you know, some of her friends came, you know, when we were all talking, and they were like, oh, you know, we're not from around here, you know. And I'm like, when you're not living somewhere else, wherever you are living is where you are. And that's what you just said, that wherever you are planted, bloom there. Don't forever be thinking, if I was somewhere else, I would bloom better. If I was somewhere else, the weather is better there, the sun shines better there. If you are in a place where the sun never shines, that's where you will bloom. And another thing I heard is, it's your responsibility to bloom. Nobody is going to bloom for you. A lot of times I hear, because I speak to a lot of young ladies, it seems like it's somebody else's fault for whatever is going on in my life. Speaking to that for a minute, and then if there are no other questions, if there are questions, please let me have them. If not, just, it's not, you shouldn't always look at it as somebody else's fault.
So I would say that it's important, especially as women, for us to take ownership of our choices. What happens to us, sometimes, I would say 90% of the time, is actually what we allowed to happen to us. There are some things that happen that weren't in our control, but how we react to those things are our choice. There are things that will happen that should break you, but you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. So I'll use myself as an example. When I got married, like I said, I thought the next step would be to have babies. And after the first year and the second year, it didn't seem like they were coming. And so we decided to do some tests. And in doing the tests, we were told by a consultant that if we ever had children, it wouldn't be together. So if one of us might be able to have children, but not together. And first of all, we chose not to accept what we were not comfortable with. What didn't sit well with us was not a full stop. It was an opinion, and we were going to get a second opinion. Going through my journey, one of the things that actually started Ia Henry, funny enough, was my sister calling me up, and my sister said to me, "You have to tell your story. There are a lot of women who are dealing with fertility issues, and they're not in their 50s. They're in their 30s. Some are even in their 20s. But people aren't talking about it, and especially in the Nigerian space, we don't talk about it. Yomi, you need to write." And that is how I started Ia Henry. Now, I'll tell you something interesting. So I had actually decided to take a year off work, and I was going to write a book. And I made that announcement on a Wednesday. On Saturday morning, I was out and my husband called me and said, "Meet me at the hospital." My son had broken his leg. So where I thought that for the next 3 months, I was going to be luxuriating and basking in my creative aura, I was homeschooling a 3-year-old who didn't really want to be schooled. And if he's a rambunctious person with 2 legs, a broken leg was not going to stop him. He's the definition of "I will not be deterred." That is actually who he is. And so from that, my sister called me again and said, "You know what? I know that right now you're struggling to write, but if there's one thing you can do is talk. So Yomi, start a podcast." So then I say, okay, and I'm trying to start the podcast, and I'm like, I'm not sure if anyone wants to really listen to me talking to myself. I want to talk to people. And for whatever reason, it's just not coming together. And so a friend calls me up and says, "Oh, he says he's doing a podcast." And I'm like, "Tell me." And he says, "Look, if you're having challenges, get 5 women in a hotel room, get a camera crew, and just talk." And I was like, great idea. And somehow 5 women just talking in a hotel room turned into 12 women on 3 panels talking in a hotel hall to over 70 women. And what was supposed to be a podcast ended up being an event. So you may not be able to control, but you make choices. You make choices as to how do I proceed. I'm not where I want to be, but if I'm not going to die where I am, then what am I going to do while I'm in this space? And that's what the Ia Henry journey has been about. So I would say you have to take ownership for yourself, because my mom says no one is going to pray for you more than you pray for yourself. No one is going to fast for you more than you fast for yourself. So if you are not happy where you are, what are you doing about your happiness? Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. There's another question, and I think it's a bit similar to Ibiemi's question. The person says, so disruption is not destructive, but some days it feels like it. How do you cope with the off days?
How do I cope with the off days? Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I sit on the floor and I cry. So I will tell you about, this would have been 2017, and I was going through an IVF cycle, and everyone around me seemed to be really concerned that this wasn't the right thing to be doing. And I was like, no, don't worry. I have faith. We're going to do it. We're going to make it. It's not about us. It's about God. I feel like at that period in my life, if I had blown into a microphone, everyone would have fallen down in the room. I was on fire.
Charged.
That's, Auntie, I was, things were happening and I was not fazed, because at the end of the day, all I needed to do was believe, and nothing will be impossible. And so we go through the cycle, and I remember on the day of the egg transfer, it was during the period of the Hallelujah Challenge. So I had done the Hallelujah Challenge every night. And you know you're serious when Hallelujah Challenge ended the day before, but you went ahead and challenged yourself. And you did the Hallelujah Challenge till 4 a.m. And you know, we went to the hospital, and we did the first procedure. And you know, even the comments I was getting, like, did you take any special supplements? Because you have so many more eggs than we were expecting. And, you know, everything goes through, and I'm exhausted. So I'm going back to, while you wait for them to do what they need to do before you leave, you wait in a room and you rest. So I was going to rest. And then I heard a crash and a bang. And I hear my doctor yelling. And so I thought to myself, okay, call mom, because she's my prayer contractor. Call the husband so he can call his pastor, because that's his prayer contractor. And then, like Jesus, I was going to sleep because I was tired. And you know, my Lord slept in a boat through the storm. Yes, so as I lay down, I said, Yomi, Jesus wept in Gethsemane. He tarried. Who are you? So I stood up and I started praying, and I was on fire. And as we went through everything, they kept saying this isn't going to work out. But I had faith to move mountains, because you just need one as tiny as a mustard seed. That's all you need. And at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And it didn't just not work out. But I said to my mom, I said, it broke every bone in me. Emotionally, physically, financially, I was completely broken. And I went into the cave. That's what I call depression. And, you know, for some people, they go into the cave and they sit there. But I'm someone who is a functional. I'm functional in depression. So I was highly functional. And I had just changed jobs, so I started working in the school, and I was doing things every day. And I remember one of my husband's uncles asked to see me, and he said to me, he said, daughter, I heard you're doing so much at the school, and you're just doing so much everywhere, and my son seems so happy. And he said to me, Yomi, what are you running from? And I felt so naked, because everybody else could see what I was doing and what I was producing. But this man saw me. Now, where I'm going with this, and you know, even in terms of that story, I remember talking to my husband, and I said to him, what was the point of everything that happened? And he said, the point of everything that happened was so you could tell someone one day that even when you go through these things and it doesn't end the way you thought it would, life still goes on.
Amen.
And so in terms of how you get through those difficult days, it's one step at a time. You wake up every day, you brush your teeth every day. In my case, use eyebrow pencil every day, but you don't stop. No matter how slowly you're moving, you just have to keep moving. So
Fantastic, fantastic. We've had a really, really good time with Yomi. It was fantastic that you started off the day, and there are quite a few people saying, oh, we're coming, we had to stop at a wedding, oh, we're coming, something came up. So I know that by the end of the day, this place will be full. But I just want you to know that there are a lot of us going to be watching this over and over again. And as it is our custom, you know, what do they say? Silver and gold, we have none. But what we have is we're going to pray for you. Because you've said a lot of things that you've said with humor, which is amazing. But they've been deep, deep things. And it's made me think, and I know that it has made the people who've heard, and I think the people who've heard, there must be about 30 or 40 people who've heard, and I know that thousands more are going to listen. And it's just made me really think that, oh wow, we came up with disruption. It was just a whisper, just like ribs was just a whisper on my sofa one day. This was a whisper. But we've had an online panel recording, which was amazing. And this has been amazing. And so I just want to pray for you. We just want to pray for you. And in praying, I also I see you sort of in a lovely garden. And the garden has different color flowers. There are yellow flowers, red flowers, green flowers, all looking beautiful. And you're sort of dancing around the garden like a ballerina. And that's why I'm smiling. Not that it's funny, but anyway. And you're picking the flowers, and you've got this little flower basket, like the Victorian women would have. And you're snipping some of those flowers and putting in your basket. And I'm just saying, so God, what does this picture represent? And the picture represents your life. And your life is beautiful, It's beautiful. I see a beautiful garden. There's some manure. You're there planting. And I'm also sensing that you're going to plant. You're going to water. And God is going to give you increase. You're going to go all over the place. And as you walk, I see you so it's in a garden, but I see that as you walk, right, the garden is sprouting as you walk. So you're going to go into places that are barren. You're going to go into places that are dry. And just by your very presence there, you're going to leave the place as a beautiful garden. You have a touch. You have a touch. You have a touch. And I'm sure you have this touch. That whatever it is you touch, it blossoms. It becomes beautiful. It becomes colorful. And as you go along, I see little feet. Well, I guess you work in a school. So I see a lot of little feet, and they're going in through the flowers, but they're not trampling the flowers. As they go in, they're making the flowers even blossom even more. So you already have converts who are just following you and who are doing what it is you're doing, and they are becoming like you. And my prayer is that even as this picture is, so shall your life be. In the name of Jesus. Thank you so much for coming. Fantastic. Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. Fantastic. YOMI WILCOX. Amazing. Amazing.